This episode is brought to you by freeflow.ai, because if your best workflow lives inside Karen's head and Karen's on PTO, you've got a problem. Freeflow.ai brings clarity to agency operations without replacing your people, just replacing the mess. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to RiskCellar. My name is Brandon Schuh.
And I'm Nick Hartmann.
And today we have a very special guest, President and CEO of Evenstad Estates, Rusty Field. Rusty, thanks for being on RiskCellar.
You're welcome. Hi, Nick. Hi, Brandon. It's great to be with you both.
Great to have you.
So, quick story. Rusty and I were
Rusty, is he frozen to you?
He froze to me as well.
It's that internet in Wayzata. And doesn't he look like he's had a whole bottle of wine at this point? This is, I think we upload this live, so I'm hoping that we could.
You know, it helps. It helps. We always get caught in that one facial expression that we wish we wouldn't get caught in, and that's what happens. So,
look at that.
You know.
And I think he's still there. Do you see you?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
I mean, just when I started pumping up Riverside.
Espousing the values.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened there. I'm going to X out of a few of my other pages here just in case it's me.
Here's what it landed on, your picture, and it looks like you drank the whole bottle of wine, Brandon.
All right, I'll try that again. I don't know where I left off, but Rusty and I met at Golden Valley Country Club for a wine event a couple months ago now. And the shout out to Matt and Katie Legal. Katie's actually in my house right now with my wife. They brought us to the event, and Matt brought me, and Rusty was giving a great presentation on all the Domaine Serene wines, and I was sitting right across the table from Rusty, and I said, "How do you feel about being on an insurance podcast?" And he said, "I'd love to." No, but we're going to focus on some wine tonight. So, quick background: CV for Rusty, President and CEO of Evenstad Estates, which owns Domaine Serene. Background, and Rusty, I'm going to have you elaborate on this a little bit, but former CEO of Upsher-Smith Laboratories. 10 years at United Health Group and Ameriprise Financial, so he's got some insurance background there, so that already has a synergistic tail to it. Oversees wine operations in Oregon and Burgundy, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. My AI was correct in its research.
Very nice.
All right, but yeah, so let's start out the convo here, Rusty, and just I want to hear how, and I think I've heard it, but I want the listeners to hear how you got into the wine business, and maybe the journey that took you there.
Well, I got lucky is the short answer, but it began a long time ago. Actually, Ken and Grace Evenstad grew up in Minnesota. Ken grew up in Baudette, and Grace grew up in Wayzata. They met at the University of Minnesota. Their son, Mark, was one of my brother's best friends in high school, so they're about 2 years younger than me. So that was the first interaction with the family. Got to know them throughout their childhood, and after being at Ameriprise and being at United, I've been talking to Mark quite a bit about the pharmaceutical industry, and went to Upsher-Smith and became the president and CEO of the company. And that kind of developed the relationship with the family and took it to the next level, where we got to know each other, got to trust each other, knew how to work together very effectively. I knew Ken and Grace well. I know Mark. I know Mark's children. And so in a family business, knowing the family and then being able to do well in the business is a great combination. And that's what led me to Domaine Serene when Upsher-Smith was sold. There was an earn-out with the Japanese company buying Upsher-Smith, and I spent time until the earn-out was complete, and then Ken and Grace and Mark asked me to come and join them at the winery, and it was an honor to do so. So that's how I got in the wine business.
So obviously there's a lot of, you've had a lot of leadership experiences clearly that got you to this point, but going from financial, insurance, to running, a wine business is not exactly like the expected next step in a career. What was that contemplation? I'm sure it was a quick one, given the beautiful surroundings in Oregon. But how was that conversation? When you thought about it in your head, what?
Yeah, I mean when I moved from financial services and health insurance to pharmaceutical manufacturing, all of a sudden you have a product, you have manufacturing, you have sourcing, and then when I thought about wine, obviously wine is so much fun, and I'd gotten to know the winery. We had all of our client meetings at the winery, spent time with the family meetings at the winery, fell in love with the wine. So I was in love with the wine prior to taking the job, so that made it even better. And what's similar about all businesses, you have products, you have customers, you have all the intermediaries that make it happen. What's different here in wine is you're farming, right? And you have all the things that nature can do to you. And I think the other thing that's really cool is the depth of the human relationship that comes from wine. The people that are passionate about wine are passionate about people, and it's just incredible the relationships that we develop together. And when you have that passion, you just share it.
Yeah.
And that's what's super fun about wine.
That's a very interesting kind of insight from that standpoint, because obviously insurance business is very kind of relationship forward, people forward business. So obviously financials are too. Although both of those industries are starting to automate a lot more, which is unfortunate. But we talk about that a lot here on this podcast. But yeah, wine is in every good story, right? You're at the table, the fish tail gets bigger and bigger, usually accompanied by a glass of wine, right?
Indeed, yeah, and friendships get closer, and families get closer, and celebrations occur, and milestones are celebrated. So it's really special.
Yeah, and so you were obviously in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And now you're in Texas, right by our friend Nick. Well, not right
4 hours north.
Yeah,
It's very, very close in Texas. It's 4 hours.
Yeah,
That's where it rains.
Isn't everything like 4 hours away in Texas?
Yep.
Except El Paso, which is 10 hours away.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And hard to get to.
Yeah.
And very hard to get to. Yeah.
Remind me, but also the listeners, why Texas?
So, long story short, my wife grew up in Florida. She spent 25 years in Minnesota, said this was the last winter, and our kids are down in Texas. So we have a 25, 23, and 21-year-old. They went to college down here, ended up staying after college, and it was a warmer place. Our children were here, and we made the decision to home base here. And so I just go back and forth to Oregon and to France, but I travel a lot all around the U.S., and being in Dallas is very central, so I can go anywhere direct, and it's quite easy. So.
Well, great. Well, my wine glass is empty, and we need to solve that problem here quickly.
Yes.
I've had a full day of carting kids around, and just got done swimming with them at the pool. So I need to let out some stress. But what first of all, maybe let's do an overview of what we have, and then we'll start it off with the first bottle.
For sure. So Ken and Grace began the journey of wine in Oregon. They actually started it when they fell in love with Pinot Noir from Burgundy in the 60s and 70s, and that sort of created the dream. Started the winery in Oregon in 1989, and then pursued acquiring land in the Côte de Beaune and the Côte de Nuits in 2015 and 2021. So we have wines from both. So we're going to do kind of an Oregon Burgundy side by side, so you can see some of the differences.
Perfect.
And that's the plan tonight.
I learned most of my Pinot Noir education from the movie Sideways.
That's a great movie.
Based on Paul Giamatti, right? He was very fond of the Pinot Noir because of its lack of hardiness, I guess, as he put it. Would you characterize that as kind of a true statement with the Pinot Noir? Is it more complicated?
Yeah, very, very accurate.
Yeah.
It is, it requires certain kinds of growing conditions to really thrive, and it doesn't have a wide band, in terms of what that is, and so it is a special varietal, and that's why you see it, kind of concentrated in certain geographies, but not everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, what's our first?
So the batting order. Let's go with we're going to go Burgundy first, and we'll start with the Château de la Crée Les Graviers. That's the one with the chateau on it. And
I'll be right back.
Yep, by all means. And I'll give you the background on this vineyard. So in Burgundy, the vineyards are called Climat, right? And so in Burgundy, wine is really a representation of a sense of place. It's the terroir that exists there. They don't blend wines. They let the wine be true to the terroir. And Gravier, which means gravel pit, basically, it's a very gravelly soil. So when you walk in it, you see the limestone. All of Burgundy has a foundation of limestone. It was a seabed at one time. And so what you get in the Chardonnay that comes from Burgundy is some salinity. In this one, you can almost taste the stone, the gravel. It's just a really special representation of a white Burgundy that I thought would be interesting to share. It also happened to win a Platinum Decanter Award last year, which for the listeners, it's 18,000 blind tasted wines, 137 of them are chosen for Platinum Award out of that. So
Very nice.
got some good recognition.
Yeah. Nick, you got your wine?
Just give me a sec.
He's got to get it open.
Look at you. You got to prep a little better than this. Okay.
I had the Pinot opened. That's
Oh,
Well, that's the most
I know.
important one. It's breathing, and
Yeah,
you're,
breathing.
that way you've got that ahead. Yeah.
rookie. Thought we were going to start with a red. I'm going to.
okay.
You should, yeah. So you can, and then it'll be fun to compare kind of the difference in soil, because the techniques between Burgundy and Oregon that we use are very, very similar. So you'll just
Cheers.
notice the difference. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, for sure.
That's very nice.
That is
And
good.
the key to Chardonnay is the temperature that you drink it at, right? So you should drink it at 55, 60 degrees. The way that I know a good Chardonnay is if it's room temperature and I still love it.
Right.
Then you have a good Chardonnay.
So, we're a wine and insurance podcast, but obviously our skill set's more on the insurance side. One thing that
Brandon thinks he knows a lot about wine now.
Learn a little bit more every day.
It's kind of fun.
One thing that I've never heard, may probably have, but I probably had too many glasses of Chardonnay to remember it at the time. So when you chill a red wine, the flavor profile, from my understanding, is reduced quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
It kind of almost level
Deadens
sets,
it a little bit.
right?
Yeah.
It could make a bad wine into a mediocre wine and a really good wine into a mediocre. I'm being hyperbolic, but
This is Brandon disagreeing with me, but I like a little chill to it. I'm a wimpy wine drinker. He's like, no, you can't chill it at all.
So in Texas, I would argue in a hot day, it's okay to put your Pinot Noir in a little bit of ice. Just like let the bottle rest on the ice, and it keeps that temperature down into 60 to 70 rather than 80
Right.
or 90 when you're so I definitely would chill the Pinot Noir in Texas if I was serving it at an event for sure.
Yeah. All right.
in
Well, I'm
Texas
never going to
suburbs.
live that down, Rusty. But
There you go, Brandon. Thank you, Rusty. Appreciate it.
but the question. So the question. So you chill obviously slightly a Chardonnay or a white,
Yeah.
but it enhances the profile. Any
Yeah,
chemical
I think,
any chemical reason for that?
yeah. So I think that I think it's pretty similar. More of the flavor of the Chardonnay comes out when it's warmer. However, if it's not a really stellar Chardonnay, it'll taste better when it's colder.
Yeah.
So it almost if there are flaws in the wine, it covers it up a little bit more and makes it sort of evens it out.
Yeah.
And so it's more drinkable and more tasty, and so that's very common. But for Chardonnay in particular, I mean, some wines like Sauvignon Blanc, you want to drink it cold. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be served. Chardonnay is different. It's supposed to be more in that 55 to 60 degree range. So.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Well, this is a really nice.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's so smooth. Like I'm not normally a big Chardonnay drinker, but this has like a very, and I'm going to use adjectives and words to describe the wines that probably don't make much sense, but it's got like this very like smooth caramely kind of consistency to it when you drink it. It's like it's almost like you're not drinking a white wine at all. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a common statement that people make, which is I don't like Chardonnay, and what I say is you just haven't had the right Chardonnay yet.
Talk to us about the kind of the barreling process with wine. So, my real liquor education is in Scotch, or it's probably where I've had the most education from people that know what they're talking about. So, I've been to distilleries, been to Scotland multiple times, heard about, how the peat and everything is done. So I've in the barreling but from a wine standpoint, I'm not as educated. So what is the difference in how wine is barreled from one another?
Sure. So if you're bringing in a red wine as an example, Pinot Noir, we destem the wine, the grapes, and get pressed, and basically you're combining the skins and the juice into a big steel container. That's where fermentation happens. And then once fermentation occurs and it's ready to be barreled, it goes 100% into French oak. And the way we do that is there's new oak, which means it has a lot of impact. There's sort of once used or twice used oak, which is a little less, and then there's neutral, and we use a combination. If you came into our cellar, you would see 10 or 12, 15 different coupers from France. All of it's French oak. And the winemakers choose barrels and match them to the plot because they like the flavor profile that comes from it. And then they have toasts. How much toast? Is it heavy toast, medium toast, light toast, and the impact on the wine. And then in the Pinot Noir, it stays in the barrel for, usually for us 14 to 18 months, which is a little longer than a lot of places will do. Chardonnay is a little different. It's still 100% in oak, so we don't age anything in, and not much anyways, and none in the U.S. and a little bit in France in steel, a little bit in glass and a little bit in concrete in Burgundy, but in the U.S. it's all in French oak. It just stays in the oak a little less time, more like 12 months rather than. Sometimes 14, but that's basically what happens. So oak barrels are a big part of the overall process in both Burgundy and in Oregon.
Oak seems to be a very common wood to bottle everything in. Oak must be high demand from that standpoint.
It has very tight grains,
yeah.
and so it's a very effective where it has enough breathability, but not too much to affect wine, right?
Sure.
It's a little different in spirits in that you lose the water and you get the angel share kind of disappears, but the oxygen doesn't harm the product. In wine, oxygen can oxidize the wine and make it terrible. So
Right.
that's what the grains of the oak work really well for wine, for sure.
That's going to be the tip so far the number one tip that I've picked up is the tight grains in the oak barrels. Did you know that, Nick?
I remember the sommelier that we had on, Leslie,
Yeah.
brought that up.
She did?
So we were talking about the oak that was used here and then shipped over there, right?
Okay.
I think she talked about the oak. I believe.
Wow. Sounds like you had it.
But you could imagine the forest management that needs to take place to keep the oak trees growing, because it takes forever to grow
Right.
oak trees. So they've been thinking about this. Fortunately, they've been making wine in Burgundy for 1,000 years, so they've sort of planned on but there are limited volumes, right?
Acorn season has got to be real nasty.
They use that waste product now. But I can't imagine the barrels they've gone up in price, right? I mean,
Yeah, for sure they have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have my house, and I live in Deep Haven, so it's very wooded, but my house is surrounded by 4 probably 100-year-old oak trees. And
Maybe older.
The acorn season is ridiculous.
It's a blessing and a curse,
Yeah.
right? You have a beautiful tree, and
Yeah.
then you have thousands of acorns.
I mean, it's like my backyard is just acorns in the end of the summer. It's crazy.
Squirrels have never been happier. They love it.
All right. Should we move on to the second one?
Sure. So what we'll go to next is the Evenstad Reserve Chardonnay. So this is the 2022 Evenstad Reserve Chardonnay. This is a wine that we only sell in what we call wholesale distribution. So it's what you find in restaurants. It's what you find in stores. So at the Minnetonka Bottle Shop, you can find the Domaine Serene wines.
My go-to, right there.
Yep, there you go. Yep, that's a great store.
Yeah.
And the difference, so the technique is pretty similar, slightly higher elevation, but you have Jory soil in Oregon, which is volcanic in its history. So you have volcanic soil and clay. It's a very red color in the Dundee Hills. It's why they call the Dundee Hills the Red Hills in Oregon. And so you have much younger soil. It's only been farmed for 60 years rather than 1,000, and it's volcanic in nature. So you can get a little bit more richness in the wine, a little bit more body than you have in a white Burgundy. But that's fun to compare them side by side.
On my kind of the tongue right away, you can taste, or I can taste like it is more like when you drink a sparkling water versus a still water on your tongue. You can feel that
A little effervescence.
Yeah. taste right away. But it's a good contrast. I mean, they're both good, but it kind of lights you up a little bit from that standpoint.
I think there's that the acidity and the aliveness that comes from probably just from the younger soil.
Yeah.
Because the vines are the same, right?
Right.
And the elevation relatively similar. It's almost on the same parallel, same kind of growing season. A little more in Oregon. We have more aspects to the sun. In Burgundy, it's just one sort of hill that slopes around, so you get a little bit, but not as much as you do in Oregon.
When did Oregon become such a prominent wine country?
So the early wineries, the sort of the grandparents of the valley and the Willamette Valley in Oregon were late 60s and and 70s. I think it started to grow in the 80s, but it still kind of feels like it's 20, 30 years behind Napa and Sonoma. You have a vibe, which is that the wineries are a little bit more spread out. They don't feel quite as condensed. You have much more of an agrarian kind of feel to it. And then obviously when literally Sideways came out, that started to change the trajectory of Pinot Noir. And then when people discovered it in Oregon, then all of a sudden Oregon Chardonnay started to get popular as well.
It was a great movie.
Yeah.
When it came out, I was way too young to appreciate wine, but I've watched it multiple times since. Yeah.
gets better every time you
Oh,
watch
yeah,
it after.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I really gave Paul Giamatti a lift there. No. What do you think, Nick?
Sure.
What,
Well, it's really good. So, although fewer than reds, white wines, Chardonnays from this area are gaining in recognition, especially grown near this area, fresh, floral, and mineral driven. So this is a predominantly, this show my lack of knowledge, but the Burgundy, it's a red wine area, right? In this area?
Yes, in Burgundy, the first one. So the Côte de Beaune has a more known for its Chardonnays. So the southern part of Burgundy is more known for Chardonnays. So this is where you have the Montrachets, the Grand Crus, the Merceaus, the Chassagne-Montrachet, Pouligny-Montrachet, and the Montrachet Grand Crus are more known for whites in the southern part of Burgundy. In the northern part, it's much more known for the Pinot Noir. So you have fewer Chardonnays, and a vast majority of the Grand Cru that are Pinot Noir are in the Côte de Nuit.
Okay.
so this wine,
That's good.
according to my research, this wine just won the best wine by quality at the 2025 Sommeliers Choice Awards.
Yeah, that's a fun one. That probably more proud about that one than any other because you have 50 really reputable sommeliers around the country at the greatest restaurants picking a wine. So that was fun.
That's amazing.
That happened. Yeah, for sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun.
It's a quick sidebar from the wine. How have you found? I mean, it's got to be just amazing. Just the proximity. I'm going to fly in the room. Proximity you have to wine and the beauty of everything that Domaine Serene has. But how has the first few years of this transition been from that standpoint? I mean, it's got to be I'm sure I know that your business has plenty of stresses to it, but it's also you also have this, no pun intended, this kind of serenity, right? That follows wine too, and it must be an interesting juxtaposition when you
if you kind of every business has challenges. Every business goes through cycles, up cycles, down cycles. So leaving that aside, kind of because that's there no matter what.
Right.
You step out or you come in the morning and you see this most incredible sunrise and looking out at Mount Hood and you think, oh my gosh, it's Oregon. When the sun is shining is the most beautiful place on earth. If it's raining, it's pretty up there still. It's just not quite as high as when the sun shines.
Right.
And then you have the sunset over the mountain range by the ocean, and same thing with Burgundy. You're standing in some of the most famous vineyards ever, and so the personal serenity is incredible. And then, like I said, when you have relationships on top of that physical beauty, it's really hard to describe. The number of things that happened to me today of personal relationships that I've met that are members, not members, people that are interested in the winery, and they pop up everywhere. And it's every day. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, what do we have? What do we have next?
So you're in the Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir in Burgundy about. There are 640 vineyards that rank as a Premier Cru or higher. It's about 10 or 12% of the total production in Burgundy, and Grand Cru is 1 to 2%. So it's the wine you have there is a Chambolle-Musigny. It's called Les Fusselot, and it's a very, very famous vineyard in Chambolle-Musigny. Chambolle-Musigny has some of the most famous wines, like Musigny is a Grand Cru, Beaumar is a Grand Cru, Clos Vougeot is a Grand Cru. So it's in this space of incredible wines, and it's a young, because it's a 22 vintage representation of Burgundy Pinot Noir. And then what we can do is kind of juxtapose that against the Evenstad Reserve, which is from the Dundee Hills in Oregon, and again. You can tell me the flavor profile that you see that's different, and between the two of them, because they're very different.
That's fantastic.
That's really good.
It's one of my personal favorites that we make, and that 22 vintage was really nice. But I like that wine. So Domaine Evenstad was the last brand launched by the family. So the Côte de Beaune wines are called Château de la Crée. That's the one you had before, and then the Côte de Nuit wines are under the Domaine Evenstad label. And 22 was the first vintage after the purchase in 21, and so it'll be fun to see these wines in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
So this was the first. So Pinot.
It had been farmed before for
Yeah.
millennia, right? But first underneath the Evenstad
The label.
control.
So what? Remind me and educate the listeners. What was the kind of the catalyst for getting Domaine Serene into France?
Into Burgundy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when Ken and Grace fell in love with Pinot Noir, it was because they were drinking, the Burgundy Pinot Noir in the 60s and 70s, and that's how they fell in love with it. And they just wanted to make that wine, and it was a dream. And one day, I think it was probably 88 or early 89, Ken said someday, and Grace goes, well, we're going to run out of some days.
Yeah.
And so that's what started Domaine Serene. And then once they had kind of achieved great accolades doing that, this concept of going and buying property in Burgundy, which is incredibly difficult to do. I don't think there's another winery that has estate property the scale that Grace does today. And it's 40 acres, and the average size house in Burgundy is 20, and so it's a meaningful operation there. And so I think it was just sort of like full circle of the dream. Began with loving Burgundy Pinot Noir, going to Oregon and proving that they could make wine, and then pursuing the concept of something that was really challenging. And they approached it really well, like not like Americans, like barging in and this is who we are,
Right.
but very much just this is what we want to do. We want to pay attention to the terroir. We want to respect the history, but also challenge things to make it better. And that's been received very well.
So what in this
Wonderful.
glass? What should we be looking for from a taste profile?
I mean, I love the sort of the light red fruit flavor. So it's almost like a dried strawberry.
Yeah.
Which really is the first thing that hits me. There's even kind of like a wisp of cotton candy in there that I can get. I'm going to enjoy, as it ages, you start to get some of those tertiary flavors, like a little bit more of the spice, a little bit more of the sort of the forest floor kind of that's going to blend really well with that light fruit that you get in the first, and really on the nose and on the palate.
Right. That's a good,
But for a Pinot, it's punchy. Like, it's good,
Yeah.
that way.
Yep.
Yeah, the dried strawberry is a very good, quick encapsulation of like a taste profile. Yeah, that's really good. So there's, the company Evenstad started in 80. Was it 89?
89 in Oregon.
Yeah. Obviously, it's there's not too many businesses that you can find these days that have that sort of, obviously much more common years and years ago with less companies, turning to private equity, going public, that sort of thing. It's a great legacy that you're now a part of. How does that feel to have that sort of?
Yeah, it's the thing that I've always appreciated about the Evenstads. It was true when Ken was alive. He passed in 2021. Still true today. Is just this sort of like passionate pursuit of the highest quality, not because they want to like achieve some kind of award, but just because they want to make the best. And so that when you do that, it puts a lot of pressure on trying to do it again and again, and you have to really be smart about how you invest in a wine business, because it's not easy to do. There are a lot of wine businesses that aren't successful, And, and so being able to kind of combine this pursuit of quality relentlessly with managing a business and making it profitable to run well is a great combination, and something that really was motivating to me. So it was true in the pharma business, and it's true here in the wine business.
How was the club model, Rusty, from maybe a business development versus retailers? And I'm sure it happens. A retailer will sell a bottle, and then they just want to join the club. But when did you start the club? How is it going?
Yeah, the club has been a central part of just how the business was built. If you look at kind of our volumes historically have roughly been even between, direct to consumer on one side and then wholesale distribution, which goes through restaurants. We call that on-premise, and then off-premise would be the bottle shop and stores. That's pretty high. That's very high for most wineries. It would be a much heavier wholesale distribution and a lighter D2C model. The wine club, we have about 7,200 wine club members.
Wow.
Like our podcast listener base.
That's our podcast.
They are, the best thing about our wine club members is they are truly passionate. I mean, they are our best. We love to engage with them. They love to engage people in the wine, and it's just a great combination. And so this environment has been tough for alcohol for the last few years, and so wine clubs have been suffering. We have worked really hard to modify the club to make it even better, more customization, to allow them to choose the wines that they want in an effort to retain them longer over time, and we've done a really good job doing that. So for us, it's central to what we do, and really important for because you really have like 7,200 brand builders out there every single day, which is irreplaceable.
Mini marketers. Yeah.
Mini marketers, yeah, for sure.
It's those damn Gen Zers. They stop drinking.
yeah, and we, they in sort of the post-COVID sort of just pauses a little bit of a downshift down.
I don't know if that's true with wine, Brandon.
No,
right? They just don't drink alcohol. I think they drink wine.
I don't know what they
kids.
drink. Those Gen Zers. You just need one good financial crisis to really put them into the wine.
3 kids.
These kids, they
kids,
weren't around for 2008, right? So
exactly, they missed that one. So that's
yeah. They just need a little push. We'll see if AI can give it to them. All right, let's go to the final.
So 2022 Evenstad Reserve Pinot Noir. This is heavy Dundee Hills, so higher elevation. Really nice, rich Jory soil, that volcanic clay mixture soil, very bright red. You're gonna. I'll just give you a chance to kind of taste it and give me the juxtaposition of what's different than what you tasted in the Burgundy Pinot Noir, because it should be very different, with some overlap and similarities. Mm.
Yeah, again, I would say what was the word you used? The effervescence.
Effervescence.
Definitely more definitely some more acidity there, which I like.
It's your tongue, and
I like acidity.
Makes your mouth water in that way. Yep,
yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. I like acidity. That's why I drink a lot of coffee every day. So goes coffee,
all day.
coffee, wine.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, no,
this is really good.
That's really good. So
I don't know the notes. I'm not good at that, but it tastes like really wonderful red wine to me.
Yep, that's what I say when people ask. What's funny about that is, unless you're a winemaker these winemakers have like superhuman nose to tongue to brain, and they can categorize everything, and I'll be tasting and say, yeah, I'm getting some graphite, like pencil lead, and I'll be like, I can taste that too, but I couldn't taste it.
You're like, I haven't tasted pencil lead since I was in the second grade biting my pencil.
Yeah. Or they pick something out like, it's like a white flower. I'm like, okay, I see where you're coming from, but they have to like connect my nose and my tongue to my brain
right.
for me.
Yeah,
So I get what you're saying.
They need to
yeah,
lead
for
the
sure.
witness a little bit, which
Exactly.
I'm the same way. I know what I like, but it's definitely, and I'm still not very sophisticated, but I'm definitely better than I used to be. But I remember when I first started drinking wine, it was like it was right after college, right after I graduated from college, and I have some friends that were really into wine at the time and still are. But they had it was like a wine quiz board or something. It was like this, basically, except, you'd write down what you tasted. And I'm like, guys, I don't know what you're talking about here. It tastes like wine. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I was just reaching for my wheel. It's in the other room, but yeah, without a guide, right? Then it's harder to do.
Right.
But like for the Evenstad Reserve, I get a little darker fruit, a little bit more like a currant that comes through. I get sandalwood and a little bit more sandalwood and spice, maybe just a different kind of spice that then I do from the Fusselot.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Anything else we should be looking for on that one?
Nope, I just think it's fun to be able to compare, and and again, even if you were in Burgundy, tasting a Côte de Nuit Pinot Noir versus a Côte de Beaune Pinot Noir, you're going to get a different flavor profile, and to me, that's the most fun way to drink wine is to get two bottles and compare them side by side, and whether it's different vintages of the same wine or two wines from two of the same varietal from different areas, it just is the best way to learn about wine.
So obviously, Burgundy, Oregon, I don't know how many 4,000 miles apart or whatever, 5,000 to 6,000 miles apart, whatever it is. So how do you latitude must have to do with some of it.
For sure.
But how do you mimic or not to produce that? When you're looking for a place to grow wine, how do you try to, and maybe I'm talking about this inaccurately.
No, you're talking about it perfectly because literally the 45th parallel, it's almost like the 45th and the 46th go right through Oregon, Willamette Valley, and Burgundy. And if you just looked at the seasons between October and May, sometimes June, it rains and it's cold. It rains a lot in both places, and then it's very hot and very dry in the summertime, with cool nights in both places.
Yeah.
And so that's the ideal growing circumstance for Pinot Noir for sure. Hot days, cool nights, dry in the summer. We don't irrigate any of our vines. The vines grow down and find the water. And so in drought, they're digging 30 feet deep.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's great. You don't have to have that expensive input. That's kind of the gold, isn't it, Rusty?
It's sort of like it's like expected, right? And dry farming is sort of one of the things that that people expect, and it's not easy to pursue, and so it's one of those things that if you irrigate it, and I don't even think it's allowed legally in Burgundy to be able to do that. I think that would be against the law. Yeah. So they have a lot of rules and regulations there. And in Oregon, we just choose to dry farm. The only time we irrigate is when the vines are brand new, and then we don't irrigate again.
Mm. So. Have you seen, like, out in Oregon? I know the answer, I think, in Burgundy or in France, but like, have you seen more regenerative practices becoming more popular? Like, or has that been popular for a while?
Yeah, it's been. So in Burgundy, we all of our vineyards are farmed organically. We're just going through the final processes of getting the certifications. In Oregon, we're farming organically as well, but have a year or two more in different vineyards. Some of them are organically farmed from the beginning, and some will transition to being organic certified over the coming years. But the practice of, we build reservoirs to retain water. Water is a big deal in Oregon because you have sort of strange water rights, and so we're all thinking about how to conserve and preserve water in Oregon for sure, but paying attention to the land. We have 350 acres. We have 1,000 acres total So we only farm the best. We have natural land and on all the things that make the land healthy around the vineyards. And the farming practices are meant to be very sustainable.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, in fact, we just made a decision. Our 24 vintage went into a bottle that, was, I think our bottles were over 700 grams, and this is under 500. And so that's like hundreds of thousands of pounds of glass that will not be used, going forward. It's incredible. So doing things like that, it's really important to us here and very important in France as well.
Wow. I'm glad I asked that question. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, good question.
Well, I'm going to do 2 truths and a lie and 3 truths and a lie, and they're going to be wine, history of wine. So we'll start with 2 truths and a lie, and then I had to go to 3 truths because Brandon was getting more of them. But let's let Rusty participate.
Good. You can test my limited knowledge.
Well,
is it wine specific or what is this?
It is.
Okay.
2 truths and a lie themed around history of wine. Archaeological evidence shows wine was being produced over 8,000 years ago in which is now Georgia, the Caucasus region. Or Caucasus? Caucasus? I don't know if it's pronounced right. In ancient Rome, wine was sometimes mixed with lead-based additives, which likely caused widespread lead poisoning among the elite. Or number 3, champagne was intentionally invented when medieval monks set out to create sparkling wine as a luxury product. Which one's the lie?
The last one.
Agreed.
Brandon, what do you think?
Champagne was an accident, from what I understand.
You're right. Wonderful. You guys you're doing great. Now let's see this one.
The second one really disturbed me, though.
It did.
Lead-based amongst the elite. Now, we're feeding this into large language model. There's built-in bias here with some of this. History of wine. Okay, now here. The world's oldest known winery was discovered in Armenia, dating around 4100 BCE, complete with fermentation vats and drinking cups. B, in ancient Greece and Rome, drinking wine undiluted was considered uncivilized. It was normally mixed with water before consumption. C, in the late 19th century, it's phylloxera epidemic devastated European vineyards, leading to the widespread grafting of European vines onto American rootstock. And D, wine corks were invented in the 19th century, which made long-term bottle aging possible for the first time. Which one's the lie?
I'm thinking the last 2 are correct, so now I can't remember the first 2.
The oldest known winery was discovered in Armenia.
I'm going to go cutting wine with water. That sounds like...
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go to. I'm going to go cutting.
That sounds like
too.
nonsense.
That's a truth.
No
in ancient
way.
Greece and Rome, wine was typically diluted with water. Drinking it straight was seen as barbaric or uncivilized. The false is wine corks were not invented in the 19th century. Cork stoppers were used as early as ancient Roman times and became widespread in the 17th century, enabling long-term aging well before the 1800s.
Cool.
There you go.
How much fun was that?
Well, I need to get to a couple insurance questions before we let Rusty go here.
Oh, yeah. We had to mix that in for entertainment purposes.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah. So, to get to the risk side of things, obviously, there's a few things that affect the risk in the wine business. I'm sure you know better than us even. But obviously, weather being the primary when you think about it. Fire, smoke, hail, all these different things that are happening now more than they've happened before, due to whatever reason why you want to attribute it to climate change, being the most obvious. What has if you look at the 2 regions, Oregon and France, how have they kind of both? How has the exposure in both regions been increasing, and what are you seeing in both?
Yeah, and other things that I could add to your list too. So we have 30,000 cases of sparkling in storage, you know, and aging.
Yeah.
You know, and so these, I mean, that's a massive amount of inventory, a lot of revenue tied up in that. That's sitting in a building that has the risk of fire or anything else that could happen to it. And so, you know, but the, you know, what's changing in the environment or the climate, right? In Oregon, it's a little less pronounced because the ocean has such a stabilizing effect. So what is a problem is the risk of fire. That's real. Even the fire that ruined the 2020 vintage with smoke taint didn't happen in the valley. It came over and landed in the valley, and it was so thick, and the circumstances were just right where it ruined the crop. In Burgundy, you have, like right now, we're in it's probably another 30 days of risk of frost. So the bud break happens early because it's warming up earlier. Buds come out, and there's this window of time where frost is very dangerous. We have 40,000 candles in garages throughout Burgundy that get deployed and lit. So if there's a frost warning, everyone's up until midnight, and they get the call whether they have to go light the candles or not.
Where do you put the candles?
In the vineyards.
Like,
So
yeah,
it's
but
one of the most like literally in the rows in between the vines.
wow.
It's like if you saw a picture or video, you could Google it. In Burgundy, the candles, it's the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I'm sure you don't want
so
to
we
do
have-
it, but it sounds amazing.
No, no, but so we have risk of frost in, you know, that March to May timeframe, and then what we have is we have this sort of microclimates that occur where the cold and warm air mix, and you have hail and storms that can be really damaging. Those are a little different because they are usually not widespread. They take out, but they can devastate a vineyard depending on the time that it happens. And
This is crazy. If you look at the images, Brandon.
Yeah, it is. It's really beautiful, and that. But so I mean, I think you know, and then you obviously have the risk of disease in both. You know, so mildew is one of the things that can be very damaging. You know, and so for example, the 24 vintage in Burgundy, the mildew, if you can't deal with the mildew, it will basically strangle the cluster. And you know, and so we lost 70% of the crop in the Côte de Nuit, and maybe 60% in the Côte de Beaune in 2024, just because it rained too much to prevent us from putting down, you know, things that could deal with the mildew. And so there's that kind of risk as well, just in terms of the crops. But yeah, it's the biggest thing is really just the sort of those environmental issues that can damage a harvest.
So, and then in 2020, I was reading that smoke damage caused over $100 million in damage to the region. How did you fare during that?
So we did not fare very well with the traditional insurance that we had, you know, and then the genesis of the fire and that damaged the vineyards was an electrical company issue,
Like a PG&E, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and so there was I would call it a group action that pursued remuneration from that, and you know, I think it was fair relative to what happened, not destructive to them, and fair to the wineries that were damaged. And so I think all in all, it ended up okay. But the traditional insurance was a challenging path on that, and that just raises the questions for a lot of vineyards because of the way it works with the crop insurance. It's so some insure, some don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
government run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we're
can
seeing
be
a
a
lot of
little
parametric
challenging.
coverage in the wine business too.
For sure. Yeah.
So I've always wondered this: when, you know, obviously these things happen, they're happening more than they have before. When you're, you know, when you have is that going through kind of the future proofing, the mindset when you're planning 5-10 years out, we're probably going to have an event like this somewhere in there, and how do we mitigate that risk, or how do we
Sure.
deal with, how do we absorb it
Fund
if it happens?
Great, it's a great question, and I think in Burgundy, if we had Pablo on right now, he would say 1 out of every 5 vintages is going to be challenging.
Yeah.
And that means that we might lose half or more of a vintage, and so one of the things that we do, which it's not possible for all wineries, but we do keep library wines in order to both just to age the wine, but also for our wine club members to be able to have access to back vintages and things like that. And so, we protect ourselves via our inventory, as kind of a hedge on seasonal changes that could occur. And again, in Oregon, our 25 vintage was maybe 75% of a normal vintage. The impacts are just much less variable, and so easier for us to manage from a long-term planning perspective.
Yeah, it's gotta be stressed. That is not serene, obviously, when things like that happen. But all in all,
for sure. Well, and I was thinking back to one of the 2 trues in a lie, or 3 trues in a lie, when that phylloxera hit Europe. The French love to talk about having to to graft all the American, rootstock into to their vines, because it's it wouldn't have worked if we hadn't done that. I mean, the vines didn't have a chance, and so that, we brought the vines over from Burgundy, and they brought the rootstock over to save the vines in France. So a good partnership.
wow, innovative. Well,
it's a what I like about it is it's a tangible business, unlike financial services. And I'm happy you ended up there, because to me it sounds like more fun than the insurance business.
and we're going to do
Or the
episode
financial services
2
business.
of this at the facility. So
Please, we have to do it at the facility.
Yeah.
For sure. We'll do it on an afternoon with the sun setting, and it'll be epic.
that sounds
awesome.
fantastic. And then who knows? Maybe at some point, France will really this will really turn into something. So
Well, that's your favorite area. That's your favorite
I love
area
love
for
France.
wine, isn't it? Brandon?
So tell us about this, the wine club, and how people can number one join.
Sure.
How do we get involved with something like that? Because obviously, I feel like our listeners will be very interested to hear more.
For sure. Yeah. Well, the DomaineSerene.com is the place that you can go to find everything, and wine clubs are they're right there, easy to find. You can look at the wines and shop wines. Even if you don't become a wine club member, there are wines that are available to purchase on the website. How the wine club works is, you have different levels in terms of the amount of wine you get. So whether it's 12, 18, 24, 48, you have Oregon clubs, French clubs. So as an example, I'm a member of an Oregon club and a French club. So I have 2 shipments coming in the next 2 weeks, my French shipment and my Oregon shipment, and the more wine you order, the more points you get for the dollars you spend, the rarer wines you have access to.
Cool.
And so as you get points, you can use your points to stay at the winery. There's some beautiful winery houses that are in the vineyards, and you can really get immersed, which is exceptionally fun. In Burgundy, we have a Château that's built
Château de la Crée.
Château de la Crée, built in the 1700s, and it's pink, and it sits in the middle of the vineyards.
I'm looking at it; it's gorgeous.
Just up from the village of Santenay, and I've stayed there myself sometimes by myself, and that's a little weird because there have to be other sort of extra beings in the building, but but it's quite beautiful. And so you can use your points to buy merchandise. You can use it to buy experiences. You can use it to stay on site. But there are also a bunch of benefits that members get that aren't points and aren't wine. Like we do a chef's pairing dinner, and you get a free chef's pairing dinner when you come and visit, which is an incredible dinner. So things like that.
Well,
we'll organize 8 guests and do that members flight. Primary member, we're going to go do that.
You should do that. You should do that for sure. And just, the other thing that people can do is, I'm like a Burgundy and Oregon travel guide, and so you can find me on LinkedIn, send me a note. I love helping people kind of, because if you go to Burgundy or if you go to Oregon, go as an insider, don't go as an outsider.
Right.
I know the restaurants, I know the activities. It's just go as an insider, send me a LinkedIn message, and I'll get you connected.
We'll do that. We'll bring some clients out there.
Big influx there, Rusty. So you got to watch out.
Listen, I'm a glutton for punishment, but it's what I love to do, so it's quite fun.
Well, I'm glad you found this kind of next phase of the career in the wine business. I think it sounds amazing. The wine is fantastic. Thank you so much for sending it our way.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody, DomaineSerene.com. Get on that member list. Or that sounds like the place to be. So,
it is.
Rusty, it was really, really fun. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. It's fun to meet you both, and full circle. We'll do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well,
all right.
Thanks, Rusty.
Thank you both.